In this video, we are going to be walking through a coding solution to the average product price by category REST API technical interview question. So let's jump in. So in this question, we are given access to a fake REST API endpoint, API products. This endpoint expects a required string query parameter category, and so it replies with a JSON array of product objects in that category. So we need to implement a function that takes a category and then issues an asynchronous GET request to the API products endpoint with that category. And then if the server reply status is not 200, we can immediately return 0. Otherwise, we parse that payload, extract every product's price, which is a number, and then compute the arithmetic mean of those prices and round it to 2 decimal places and return that number. If the JSON array is empty, again, we can simply return 0. So if we look here at our first example, we've got our input category, which is gadgets, and then our mock data in this case will have 2 gadgets where the price of the first object is 10 and the price of the second is 20. And so therefore we can add them up and divide by 2. So 10 plus 20 is 30, divide by 2, that'll give us 15, and again round it to 2 decimal places. In our second example, we've got a category unknown, and again the API responds with a 404 as there's no data. And so we can simply return 0 as there was no data present. So hopefully that makes sense. And now let's jump into the coding solution. So as we're making a network request, it's always good to have some error handling in case an exception is thrown. So we can wrap everything in a try catch block. So try catch. And then what we can do is again, return 0 if any error happens. And so next what I want to do is I want to construct the URL. So here we have our base URL, example.com/API/products. And then I also want to add on that query parameter category. And then we're using encoded URI component here, as this will safely escape spaces, symbols, and non-ASCII characters. So the query string is valid. Next, I want to make that GET request. So I can say const response equals await. And then we're going to use the fetch API and we're simply going to pass in that URL. And as always, we're using await here, again, to await until that network promise settles while not blocking the JavaScript event loop. Next, I want to check the response status. So I can say if response.status does not equal 200, well, then I can return 0 as we know something has gone wrong. Otherwise, we can get access to the data. So I can say const data equals await response.json. And so what this is doing is it is parsing the JSON body into an ordinary JavaScript object. And if the JSON body is invalid, an exception is thrown and caught below. And so next what we can do is we can check. So we can see if bang data.length. So if there is no data, so the length of the data array is 0, all we need to do is just return 0, like the question says. Otherwise, what we can do is get access to the total of all the prices. So we can say const total. And so this will be data.reduce. And so we're going to get the sum and the price. And so all we need to do is say sum plus p.price. And then our starting value for the sum will simply be 0. So this is just efficiently adding up all of our prices like so. And then finally, to get our average, I can say const avg equals the total divided by the number of items. So this will be data.length. And then finally, what I can do is I can then return math.round, because again, we want it to 2 decimal places. We're going to get the average, and we're going to add this to plus 1e minus 9. And so what we're doing here is we're adding this to dodge floating point imprecisions. So this will cause 19.89999 to just simply 19.9. And so I'm going to multiply that by 100 and then divide by 100. And so again, just avoiding these floating point errors. And this is going to have it to 2 decimal places. So let's run the tests and see if they pass. Perfect, the test pass. Let's submit it and see if the test suite passes. Perfect, all the tests pass. So pretty straightforward. Again, you can show off there with the dodging the floating point error imprecision, but typically that mightn't even be needed in interviews. So if you want to try it out for yourself, the link to the question is in the description, and hopefully you got some value out of it. If you did, please like and subscribe and share with a friend. It helps the channel out a lot, and I will see you in the next one.